Welcome back to Change Ed.
Change Ed.
Oh, good. The whole band's back together. I am so glad to be working with the two of you and doing the podcasting that we are and changing education one podcast at a time.
Wow.
It's sticking. I'm making it stick.
I like it. It's good.
I'm your host, Andrew Kuhn, everyone's favorite host of this podcast. I'm an education. I can't even edit that part out because you slipped it right in. It would sound awkward to do that.
I know.
I'm an education consultant from Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, and here with me is
Patrice Semichek, an educational consultant from the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit.
And also
Tony Marabito, staff development facilitator, Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit.
And I got to tell you, this is a really awesome episode because we're at this fantastic setup.
It's fancy.
At Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit. And Tony, you made this room just for us, right? This is not anything special, this room?
More for Patrice, but yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
It's going to be our new podcast, maybe studio.
Oh, is this for, what are we calling it?
This
mixed?
is esports room.
It's for mixed?
Oh, it's for mixed, yeah. Well, don't tell Andrew that.
Okay.
Wow, I'm right here. I'm literally right here in the space. It's not like you muted me and I couldn't hear you on Zoom. I'm right here. Okay. But also, this is your esports room as well?
Correct. Yep. Esports, STEM lab, innovation lab. We do tons of programs in here, whether it's with kids playing esports and going over the careers in esports or any kind of STEM activity that you could imagine. It all lives up here.
I know we say this every time that we have a really special episode and we're always excited about it, but I am legitimately super excited about this because this is a Mother's Day special episode. And we have
the best mother out there.
Oh,
what she said, because if I say that, my mom hears this, she'll be like, what? So what Patrice said, we're going to go with that. Why don't you introduce our guest?
Sure. So my mom is joining us today for Mother's Day. Her name is Cheryl.
Cheryl, listen.
I feel so weird that you're talking to my mom right now.
I really appreciate you coming on. And before we get started, we just want to say that we are not judging you as a parent, despite who you have as a daughter. Zero judgment.
Hurtful.
Zero judgment. Thank you.
Hurtful, Andrew. Mom, do you want to introduce yourself?
I don't have the technical background that all you guys have. I'm just Patrice's mother.
That's not true.
That is a full-time job. And we appreciate you.
Hurtful. Yeah. It's never ending. I definitely need lots and lots of mothering.
That's right. Comfort
work. I come home and I'm like, I worked with Andrew again today. She's great at comforting me.
And your husband's name is Andrew. So your mom's like, which Andrew are you crying about right now?
Yeah, it's usually you.
and she has a brother named Andrew.
Oh my gosh. You can't get away.
And I have an Aunt Drusilla who we call Aunt Drew.
I'd like to call you Andrew.
No, he used to be Drew. We've had this conversation.
Really?
DRU.
Yeah, it was a thing. I had a mohawk.
Is that your screen name?
Yeah, I had
Instant Messenger.
Aunt Drew is that's my
Okay, this podcast is not about you.
No, we're talking about your mom, obviously. All right.
Wow, somehow it always comes back to Coon.
Always.
Oh my gosh.
We're talking to my mom today.
All right. Thought you were going to lead the podcast. This is for your mom.
Oh, I thought you were leading the podcast because I didn't know I was allowed to lead.
I don't want to misquote your mom here, but your mom, I thought, reflected on our podcast and said that you were the sidekick. So I was going to allow the sidekick to be in charge of this podcast.
Okay. Mom, can you share with us a little bit about where you grew up, where you went to school?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
York, PA. I grew up there. That's outside of the Pennsylvania Dutch country. So we lived right next to a farm. So we kind of grew up in the farmland. My grandpa was a farmer, so we knew lots about farming. So I was a country girl. In our family, my dad, because he was a farmer's boy, he was the only boy in the family that went to college. And because of that, he instilled in all of us that was our next level after high school. There was no choice. That was the way it was going to be. And so it wasn't even a question. I went to Penn State. I thought I was going to be an accountant. So I took my first class and I got a D. And I realized, I don't think this is for me. And I secretly always wanted to be a teacher because my mother was a teacher. But my dad, back in the day, it was more, well, you're not going to make anything as a teacher. You got to do something better. And so that's why I went to being in the accountant area. Long story short, I went into social services, which I did love. And I worked for a hospital in the social services, and I really, truly loved it. Then I had lovely Patrice. We moved to Florida. And I was a stay-at-home mom for a while until she got into preschool. And the bug of teaching came back again because I started helping. And because of that, I went back to school. preschool, and I got a degree in early childhood / elementary and got certified. And then I taught in a preschool for many years. And then I got an opportunity to create our own school. And that was a blast and a half.
First of all, my mom is being very
Humble.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what she's not telling you is she went from being a preschool teacher, making such an impact on the person who was moving to create a new church, because my mom had his daughter who had special needs in her class. And back in, when was this, the 80s? Students who had the special needs that she had were not necessarily included in a lot of things. Right. And so she was included, and my mom, being my mom, went above and beyond and made awesome. That student feel amazing, and the parents loved her. And so he asked her to come and be the children's minister, right, at the church. She then led all of that, built this massive program in this up and coming area. Like, everyone came to the church for the program. Sure. Because, again, my mom is my mom and amazing. And it morphed into, well, now we're going to create this preschool, which then just kept growing and growing and growing. And they added buildings and all of these things for the growth of the church, which was through mostly the children's stuff. So she's being humble.
When someone says, I just created a school, and then ends the story there, I needed to ask more for sure.
This is like the Cliff Notes. We skipped 18 chapters.
I can believe Andrew would say, I created a school, and then, I ruled the world, but you actually did that. So that's really, really kudos to you. That's awesome. Obviously, you affected that minister's daughter and her life immensely. So thank you for all of that you've demonstrated. I'm sure you've touched many kids' lives that would not have had that. That's awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
When I was in college, then they'd be like sending interns to my mom's school.
The thing with that too is the church was literally right next door to the university.
Yeah.
And how we connected to the university was one of the professor's child was one of our students, and it just evolved from there. She, with her child going through the school, and she was doing the internships over there for the elementary. And she says, how about if we start letting them get their feet wet at your school? And I said, yeah, great. And it was wonderful to see the budding talent of these new teachers that are being trained. So it was exciting.
That's so cool.
The other thing that I really appreciate about you sharing in your story was that part of what I was hearing was the times as well that you were said you won't make enough money in education, and how, so you went down this other path, and yet your passion ended up in that spot anyway. So I think it's just a very interesting part about the conversation that sometimes we can overlook. The conversations change so much that, students are encouraged to, who are you going to be? What do you want to do? How do you want to change and impact the world? The other thing I was thinking about as you were talking was hearing you talk and your ambition and your drive and your passion. Patrice, it's almost like your legacy is carried on, because she is that person in our office. I am forced to work with her every day. And
best job you've ever had.
It actually truly is. I'm going to not be myself on air for a minute. This feels gross. But Patrice it sounds like all of those things they were describing, and it works so hard to empower educators. And the best thing we can do is literally get out of our way and be like, how can we support this work you're doing? Sounds like that's deep rooted in we're going to bring in everybody. Everybody has an opportunity to come be part of this. We don't want to just help a couple of kids. We want to help the whole world. And actually, Patrice was right there at the inception of this podcast and the work we do with the Change Ed. We don't want to just change a couple of things. We want to help change all of education. So I guess knowing how conversations go with my mom, she knows what I do, but not all of this work. And this opportunity is really cool. So I think you did a great job raising Patrice. I will never, ever say it again. So, but she, I think in a lot of ways is carrying on the work that you started. So
I think it's very cool to see your passion, and then being able to view, because I'm not at MCIU, being able to view what Patrice does from afar. It's the same. The passion that you put into your school, I see that in literally everything that Patrice does too. So it's very cool to see that connection.
Okay. Can I go back to being mean now?
When you came back from, are you still in Florida?
No. I'm up here with Patrice.
Okay.
I had a kid and she moved back.
Yeah.
So, wow. That's a great mom right there.
That is
truly unbelievable.
Legitimately, this is how it went. I moved up here because I wanted to save the world and teach in Philadelphia. And
yeah, but you're doing that work. Anyway, go ahead.
Thank you. So I moved up here, and then I got married I got pregnant with my son Silas, and I vividly remember my mom was still in Florida with my dad, and I remember getting in the car. I just told her it was Christmas time. I just told her, and I fell apart, and I was like, I can't have this kid by myself. I had Silas, and within, I guess, 5 months, like we came up, and my mom quit her job.
Yeah.
And my dad relocated with his job, and they moved in with us, and my parents helped us raise Silas. It was amazing. She took care of Silas, and then we had Micah, and she still stayed. And it's the most amazing thing because I didn't have my grandparents super close. My mom's dad was like my favorite human on the face of the planet. I mean, you can see why. He raised some good people, but I didn't have him close. And so for my kids to have my parents, literally my parents bought a house half a mile from ours.
That's awesome.
So our kids walk over and hang out, and it's the most amazing thing I can ever ask for my kids.
Cheryl, how was that move, leaving that legacy that you built down there and to come up?
It was difficult, but I knew it was coming to a close when I got the school certified in a certain direction that I wanted it to be. And so it was kind of like a finishing point. You know, it got to this accreditation point that it's done. It's where I needed it to be. And I could kind of hand it off to somebody. And so that made that just a little easier. But the whole thing of coming up and having the honor of being Nana to my grandsons was the strongest pull of anything.
Yeah.
That really was what the clicker. Even the person I was working down there with, he knew that once the baby was here, that he was probably going to lose me. Yeah.
So have you had the itch to teach again after you moved back up in this area?
I do the VIP kid. That was a way to get the teaching itch scratched a little bit. And I still actually have my foot in the door. I love it. I now work at a library part-time, and I'm working with the kids there. So I'm having a little more influence there. So
do you see her light up when she talks about the kids? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Very, very cool.
No.
Your mom is so awesome.
Yeah, I know. I told you.
I really like her.
I know. She's better than me.
Yeah, I know. That's why
No,
we're
she's
hiring
not.
at the MCIU. Patrice is retiring. So
We need a new host for Mix.
We do need. We can bring my mom on.
Cheryl, knowing that you have been in education and that you raised an okay daughter and have really great grandchildren, I'm curious, what are some of the differences that you have seen, especially in your career within education and now all of the things that you're doing and raising a family like you are? What are some of the differences you see from raising your own children to children now? And you can tie it to how we learn or how they're experiencing the world. But I'm curious some of the differences that you see.
The thing that stands out, just as you were asking me that, was the special needs. They were put somewhere else. And as the generations went, I saw, like in our own school, we had autism and slight differences in special needs, and we tried to include them. And that to me was awesome. Awesome. I was educated in that. I didn't know it. I was ignorant in it. I was in that generation where they would go to a special class. And I had a mother in the school who was very strong for her autistic boy. And she educated me and taught me as the administrator what I could do to help her boy. And that was, I get teary eyed now. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but there was this young man, and now we're still close, and he's an adult man doing very well. So that was amazing for me, just seeing the evolution of inclusion into the classrooms and educating us seniors, which a lot of us, I'm going to admit, tend to put their feet in cement and don't want to move. And so I had a mom who just put her arm around me and educated me and moved me up. And then I became an advocate toward it.
It also
and then look at what she does.
Yeah.
I work with Andrew.
Her own personalized special case.
I work with Andrew.
None of this feels good, by the way. One thing I will say, Cheryl, from what you're sharing about your background and your story and your experience, is that it sounds like you were cutting edge on a lot of that as well. That you weren't like, let's put them in another room. It was like, let's all come together. We can do that. So from your work, it really pioneered a new way of thinking about education. And you are, was that OG?
Yeah.
Change Ed?
But I want to give kudos to that mom, too. That mom with her strength. She wasn't pushing me, but she was encouraging me. And I could see the love that she wanted for that young boy to be included. And I agree with you, with an open mind to receive and to try, do the best you can, because it's a child. It's all about that child and making it the best experience that child can have. And so I was just blessed with that mom, and then all the other experiences down the road with other parents.
It really does come back back to the interconnectivity of the human in all of it. Change Ed wouldn't be a thing without Tony and without Andrew, without me. It's a thing because of how we decided to be interconnected. And like my mom was saying, the impact that we have, and as teachers, the impact that we as teachers can potentially have on one person can literally change their life and then continue down. And I think that we need to, as educators, remind ourselves that, yeah, there's all these things going on and new standards and new this and testing and all this other stuff, but it really comes back down to that kid and what we are and aren't doing for that kid. And how can we, as a community, I really feel strongly about community-based everything. How can we as a community surround ourselves with people that are empowering us to live into our best selves?
It makes me think of that TED Talk where the teacher's up there and he says he's at a dinner table with a bunch of lawyers and executives and they ask him how much he makes. And he says, I make a difference. Wow. And when you went from accountant to teacher, I mean, what a big difference that was, right? But you have affected so many lives in such a positive way that it makes every second worth. And I think that's the struggle now, that things are so hard right now, like after COVID and just all the things that teachers have to deal with, that if we could just go back to that moment that we decided to become teachers, that would make such a big difference.
Right.
As a school too, knowing that we didn't have the knowledge, we brought in another position, stretching our budget more than we expected, with an expertise in autism to be with that child and teach the other teacher that was in that class as well. Like Patrice said, you want to bring in all this experience that's all around you and make it the best for that child. And I can't say enough about that. Just be open and receive. There's so much out there. You just have to, listen and allow people to join in. So sorry, that's my.
All good.
Is that why you hate my alarm so much? Because your mom
No, my
has all
mom
these
doesn't
alarms?
use it. She needed a reminder. She has to go to work. We can't talk to her all day.
All right.
We can bring her on another time. She's fascinating, isn't she?
All right. Well,
The passion still comes through, which is awesome to see. It's still coming through.
I'm just very proud to say Patrice is my daughter, and I'm excited to see how far she's going to go.
Thank you, Mama. Do you have any final thoughts?
Just that I love you so much and keep doing what you're doing. And thanks for letting me be a part of this special show.
Thanks, Mama.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
You want to wrap it up with your usual?
Okay. I wish I had prepared something.
Yeah, okay.
Cheryl, thank you very much for coming on the show. It was truly a treat to meet you and to hear about all that you had done. And like I said before, to know that in a lot of ways your legacy carries on through hearing you speak. What I'm going to say is probably your greatest student in Patrice, and she's doing a lot of that work as well. And
my brother's pretty stinking awesome, too.
Yeah, he's pretty good, too.
He's Andrew?
He's Andrew.
Well, there's no question about
he's
him.
Drew.
Drew, yeah. It sounds like you're a great guy. On behalf of the entire Change Ed team.
Change
it.
Thank you again for coming on. Thank you for tuning into this special edition. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers in all varieties and kinds for all that you do and for sharing the love in all the ways that we do. I have to say, what you made me think of is that our education business is a long-term business. In the highway of life, as educators, we could either be a pull-off or we could be kind of a rest stop where we actually can be healing to the soul and that we're energizing and empower people to continue on their journey. So, Cheryl, you have inspired me to be a rest stop. Everyone get out there and be a rest stop on the journey of life.
There you go.
Love it.
Thanks, Mom.